Alright, what is going on, guys? I am TJ, bringing you a brand new video on my YouTube channel, and I know this is a pretty long awaited video. I know I tweeted something about making this video a few weeks ago, but I got really caught up in doing schoolwork, finals, and all that stuff. But I'm finally back home for Christmas break, and this is a video. I did a few of them on my channel last year, and they were pretty much my most popular videos. As my phone buzzes in the middle of recording, you gotta love it. But like I was saying, these were some of my more popular videos on my channel last year. I got a lot of interaction with them, a lot of comments, good conversation, other people's opinions, and I really enjoyed that. And this is kind of the staple of my channel, mock drafts and stuff like that, since I focus so much on college football and NFL football. So with that being said, this is my first mock draft. I'm probably going to make a few more, definitely not as many as I made last season, but you know, it just took me a while to get this out. I was really caught up in school stuff, work, and even watching film to, you know, rank these players and stuff like that. So with that being said, let's jump right into the mock draft. Alright, looking at the first 8 picks here, I have Nick Bosa going number 1 to the 49ers, Quinnen Williams number 2 to the Cardinals, Devin White number 3 to the Raiders, Ed Oliver number 4 to the Falcons, Jonah Williams number 5 to the Jets, AJ Brown number 6 to the Bills, and Justin Herbert number 7 to the Jaguars, and Greedy Williams number 8 to the Buccaneers. Now, just talking over these picks a little bit, Nick Bosa number 1. If you're the 49ers, I feel like their needs aren't worth the number 1 overall pick. Like, you can't take, I don't think Greedy Williams, they really need a cornerback, and Greedy Williams isn't really worth a number 1 overall pick. And with a really good talent like Nick Bosa is, we saw how good Joey is right now. I feel like Nick can be just as good. There's some people that believe he can be even better, but right now, you know, Solomon Thomas hasn't really worked out yet. Maybe you get another edge presence to help take off some load, take off some of the load that some of the focus that Solomon Thomas has been getting, and maybe he can start producing more. Quinnen Williams, I mean, for the Cardinals, you just have to take the best talent available. They really need some interior defensive help. Robert Nkemdiche hasn't really worked out. Corey Peters is a very old player, and I feel like getting a good interior presence is going to really help them against the run game and even generate some pass rush. Devin White number 3 to the Raiders. They have a huge need at the linebacker position. They don't really have any. I think like Markel Lee is their starting linebacker right now. They had Navarro Bowman for a little bit. They had Derek Johnson for a little bit just as placeholders, but those guys aren't really working out. Devin White to me is the best linebacker in this class. I feel like it's imperative that they go out and they fill one of their biggest holes, which would be linebacker. Ed Oliver to the Falcons at number 4. To me, they really Grady Jarrett's been good, but they haven't had like a very good, you know, run stopping interior force in the middle of that defense. And Ed Oliver is a freak athlete. He's a guy that can rush the passer. He can stop the run. He can do it all. And he was been one of the most highly touted, you know, prospects in this draft class. And the Falcons at number 4, they've had a very bad season, very injury filled. I feel like, you know, getting some more help on the defense side of the ball is really going to help them out. Jonah Williams at 5 to the Jets. You drafted Sam Darnold last year. You have to draft a guy that is going to protect him this year. If you put a first round pick, a top 5 pick, and you even traded up to get Sam Darnold, if you do that, then you're gonna have to ensure his success. And, you know, getting pass protection for him, getting good offensive linemen is the first step to doing that. AJ Brown at number 6 to the Bills. Kind of like I said earlier, talking about Jonah Williams to the Jets. AJ Brown to the Bills. You've got to get pieces around your young quarterbacks. I like it more when you build a team and then draft a quarterback, but it seems to be the last couple years, people have just been drafting quarterbacks, and then over the next few drafts, they build up around them, and in free agency, they hope to get some pieces around them. But they've got Josh Allen already in Buffalo. Go out and get a very good wide receiver. They cut Kelvin Benjamin. Zay Jones hasn't really been great, but he's been pretty good. Their offensive line is okay. I feel like that could use some help too, but Jonah Williams is the best tackle. I don't think there's another tackle that you could reach for in this range. Deion Dawkins is pretty solid. I feel like just getting weapons around Josh Allen to help him develop, get more targets, get better players, more playmakers around him is going to help him out a lot. Justin Herbert to the Jaguars at number 7. The Jaguars need a quarterback. They're starting Cody Kessler, not because Blake Bortles is injured, but because he's so bad. There have been reports saying that they're not going to continue with Blake Bortles as their franchise quarterback next year, even though they just signed him to a pretty big extension. Their defense is very, very good. They have a very, very good defense. Their offensive line has been injury plagued most of the season, and that's why their running game and they haven't had really good protection all season. But I feel like getting Justin Herbert, getting a good guy in there, a good quarterback, a young quarterback to help develop around this team, they're going to have a good running game, which is going to help him a lot. He's going to be able to lean on that a little bit, but he's going to have to go out and make his plays. They also kind of need, to me, I feel like they need a true number 1 wide receiver. Marquise Lee really isn't. D.D. Westbrook really isn't. Keelan Cole really isn't. Dante Moncrief really isn't. You've got to get a pure number 1 wide receiver. Maybe you can do that later in the draft. I'm not sure about that, but right now, their biggest need is quarterback. They need a competent player back there, and Justin Herbert is that. And Greedy Williams at 8 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They haven't really had much success covering anybody or playing really any defense at all through the entire season, especially in the secondary. Greedy Williams, to me, is the best cornerback in this class, and going out and getting him would be imperative for their success. They are in the NFC South, which is a very, quarterback-heavy, pass-heavy division. You got Cam Newton in Carolina. You got Drew Brees in New Orleans. You got Matt Ryan in Atlanta. And so I feel like going out and getting a shutdown corner to help shut down some of those wide receivers, some of those targets. I mean, against those guys, you can't shut them all down. You got to take away one of them, and Greedy Williams is going to be really imperative to that. Vernon Hargreaves has played okay, but he hasn't been great. Carlton Davis is good for where they got him at. I think they drafted him in the second or third round, so he's been pretty productive for that area, but he hasn't been a great rookie cornerback by any stretch of the means. But Greedy Williams, I feel like, is the best corner in this class, and him being available at 8, you've got to take him if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Moving on to the next set of picks here, 9 through 16, as you can see on the screen right now. At 9, I have Cleveland Farrell to the Giants, Josh Allen to the Lions at number 10. Number 11, I have Dalton Reisner to the Bengals. Number 12, Deontay Thompson to the Packers. Number 13, N'Keal Harry to the Browns. At number 14, back-to-back wide receivers, I have Kelvin Harmon going to the Redskins. At number 15, I have Zach Allen going to the Panthers out of Boston College. And at 16, I have DeAndre Baker from Georgia going to the Eagles. Just going to talk a little bit more about some of these picks. Cleveland Farrell, I really feel like, to the Giants at least, it's kind of, some people may see it as a little bit odd, but they do need an edge presence. Olivier Vernon's getting up there in age. Lorenzo Carter, they drafted him to be an outside linebacker, but I feel like he's better as an inside linebacker, kind of like that Anthony Barr type role. I feel like he compares very well to him. And speaking of another player that compares very well to him, Josh Allen, kind of a little bit. He's a guy that can play 3-4 outside linebacker. He can play 4-3 outside linebacker. He can play 3-4 and 4-3 inside linebacker. I have him listed as more of an inside, but he's a guy that can do it all. And I feel like that's really, the Lions don't really have a lot of linebacker help. They've got a lot of really, I wouldn't say washed, but it's just it's linebacker by committee. It's just a lot of dudes, but none of them are really super good or anything like that. Jared Davis had a really good rookie season, but hasn't really been producing this season. And I feel like if they go out and get, some more help on the defense side of the ball, that's really going to help out their young players like A'Shawn Robinson and Deshaun Hand develop on the defensive line. Reisner at 11, a tackle and offensive line has to be the biggest concern if you are the Cincinnati Bengals. Linebacker is kind of an issue, but you drafted Malik Jefferson last year. I feel like he should get more chances than he does. The secondary is okay. You got William Jackson, Drake Kirkpatrick. The safeties are okay, but I feel like getting that offensive line for Joe Mixon's sanity and health, for Andy Dalton or whoever else you're going to draft, the next coming years when Andy Dalton's contract starts to be up, building that offensive line up for, your future quarterback, your current quarterback, and your running backs. I feel like it's a very important thing. Deontay Thompson at 12 to the Packers. I feel they traded Clinton Dix. They've got really good corners right now at the moment. I really like Jair Alexander. Kevin King's pretty good. He hasn't been playing great. He was hurt his first year, I think, but he's been playing okay. And then Josh Jackson was a guy I was really high on coming out of the draft, and he slipped all the way to the second or third round, but they addressed their needs at the cornerback position, and then they went and they shipped Clinton Dix. That leaves room for Deontay Thompson. He's the best safety in the class, in my opinion. You have to take him at number 12. N'Keal Harry to the Browns at 13. They need a playmaker. Jarvis Landry is good, but there needs to be another guy there. Rashard Higgins, Baker Mayfield has made him look good. He's not a great wide receiver. Antonio Callaway can't be the guy. N'Keal Harry is a freak athlete. To me, he's better than AJ Brown, but I feel like AJ Brown going first, this is like my prediction. A lot of people do mock drafts and it's like, oh, if I was the owner, this is who I would take. Me, it's more of like, I think this team is going to take this player. I feel like I personally think that N'Keal Harry is the best wide receiver in the class, but I feel like people value AJ Brown more, so they're going to take him. But N'Keal Harry falling to the Browns at number 13, you get your young quarterback, another weapon. I mean, you could take a tackle here and help with, I can't remember their, it's like Josh Harrison. I want to say it's like Josh Harrison or something like that is their left tackle right now. That's probably totally wrong, so don't roast me on that, but you could get some tackle help. I don't really think that they really need anything else. Their secondary is okay. Maybe you address a cornerback situation in the second or third round, something like that, but right now you got to go out and you got to get an explosive weapon for Baker. Kelvin Harmon to the Redskins at 14. Kelvin Harmon's a guy that I really didn't know a ton about. I knew his name, but I didn't really know like how good he was, and I had seen a lot of people like Kelvin Harmon this could be the next this guy, really good wide receiver. I was like, okay, let's take a look at it, and he's actually really good. He's risen up my draft board. To me, he was more of an early to mid second round guy, but after watching some of his tape and what he can do with the football and without the football, creating separation, all that type of stuff that you need to see out of a wide receiver, he's very good. I mean, you could, if you are the Redskins, you could take the secondary is good. You got DJ Swearinger, Clinton Dix. The cornerbacks are all right. You could take a cornerback here, but I feel like you need more offensive weapons. Josh Doxson, not going to cut it. Paul Richardson Jr., not going to cut it. Jordan Reed has been very injury prone. You don't have Ryan Gray anymore. Jameson Crowder is okay, but you need a really good playmaker. Kelvin Kelvin Harmon, to me, is a very, very good playmaker, and that's the direction I think they should go with this pick. Zach Allen at number 15 to the Panthers. They really need some edge help. There's some other issues that they have, but they haven't really had a great pass rusher in a while, and Julius Peppers last year for them had like 11 sacks or 9 sacks or something like that, and he's not going to be playing for much longer. So you need a guy that's going to come in, it's going to be able to bend the edge, set the edge and run plays, get after the quarterback, because that's something that they don't do very well. They have a very good linebacking core. They're very good against the run, but they're not good at getting after the quarterback, and I feel like Zach Allen would be the perfect guy to do that for them. And DeAndre Baker at 16 to the Eagles. They've got a lot of cornerback issues. What's his name? Jalen Mills? Yeah, it's Jalen Mills. Green Goblin hasn't been playing very well. It's just, I don't know if it's their cornerbacks or if it's just him, but they are super, super aggressive. They get double moved all the time. Sluggos, out and ups, or a chair route, like where you go up, you run like a 5-yard out and then streak down the sideline. Stop and goes, any type of double move just kills their secondary, kills their corners. I feel like going out, getting some corner help. You have Sidney Jones. You drafted Rasul Douglas a few years ago. Jalen Mills hasn't been playing very good. It's more of a cornerback by committee. You got a bunch of good guys, but not one really, really good guy. I feel like DeAndre Baker, to me, is the second best corner in this class, and I feel like he will really help out their secondary. All right, moving along to picks 17 through 24. At 17, I have the Broncos taking Cody Ford, a guard from Oklahoma. At 18, I have the Dolphins taking Drew Lock, a quarterback out of Mizzou. At 19, I have the Colts taking Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle from Mississippi State. Back-to-back Mississippi State players going right here, as at number 20, I have the Tennessee Titans taking Montez Sweat. At number 21, I have Ja'Kai Polite going to the Ravens out of Florida. Back-to-back Florida players, so we got a double back-to-back right there. Not intentional at all or anything like that. But I have the Vikings taking Jawan Taylor at number 22, an offensive tackle out of Florida. Like I just said, 2 Florida players back-to-back. We're just going to keep moving. At number 23, I have the Steelers taking Byron Murphy, a cornerback out of Washington. And at 24, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Rashawn Gary, a DN, D-tackle type player out of Michigan. Just going over some of these picks. Number 17, Cody Ford. I feel like the Broncos' biggest concern is probably quarterback, wide receiver, and offensive line. They've got 2 really good running backs. If they want to, help protect their quarterback and help create a good run game, then they've got to address the offensive line needs. Drew Lock at number 18 to the Dolphins. Ryan Tannehill has not looked good since his return. They don't really have a competent backup or somebody that they can move forward with in the future. So I feel like going out there, getting a quarterback for your franchise to move on with is a very good step in the right direction. Jeffrey Simmons going to the Colts at number 19. They don't really have a very good interior presence. Jonathan Hankins hasn't played great, and Al Woods is old and also playing pretty bad. So I feel like getting a good interior presence. They've got really good linebackers. Corner is an area of concern for them, but I feel like the guys that have been playing there have been playing pretty well the whole season. They just shut out the Dallas Cowboys this Sunday, and the week before the Cowboys went off, especially Amari Cooper against the Eagles, and so the cornerbacks for the Colts show that they're taking steps in the right directions, and they've got some pretty good young guys out there. So I feel like getting Jeffrey Simmons is going to really help the interior of that defense, and they can focus on corner maybe in a later round. The Titans taking Montez Sweat at number 20. Last year they took Harold Landry as a future replacement for Brian Orakpo. This year I feel like you go out and you get your future replacement for Derek Morgan. Let both of those guys walk, or trade them, or do something, and you got to get Harold Landry and Montez Sweat in there. 2 very, very similar prospects, both coming out last year. Harold Landry came out of Boston College. This year Montez Sweat out of Mississippi State. Very similar players, very bendy, very get after the quarterback. Not as good in the run game, but they will generate a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and I feel like that's going to be good, as they move on, because I feel like that's one area that they're lacking on their defense right now. Ja'Kai Polite at number 21 to the Ravens. T-Sizzle's getting older, not getting any better either. I feel like you got to go out and you got to address that issue. He may be done after this season. I'm not really sure yet, but I feel like maybe you get Ja'Kai Polite as a guy to play, first and second down, and then on third down, you bring in T-Sizzle as a pass rush specialist or something like that. They do have Matthew Judon, and they have a Zadarius Smith, but Zadarius Smith hasn't really lived up to the hype. Matthew Judon has been playing okay, so Ja'Kai Polite I feel like is a guy that is going to bring a lot of explosiveness to that defense. They could also target a wide receiver. I'm not really sure about that though. The wide receiver class is pretty deep, and I feel like they can address that maybe in the second or third round. The Vikings taking Jawan Taylor at number 22. It's been pretty evident that their offensive line isn't that good. Kirk Cousins has struggled because of it, and their running game has struggled because of it. Going out and getting a good offensive tackle is their number 1 priority. I would have had them taking Cody Ford, but I feel like he's very, very good. I don't know if he's top 10 good, but I think he's pretty good, and I had him going earlier. So the next best offensive lineman on my board, at least, was Jawan Taylor out of Florida. Byron Murphy at number 23 going to the Steelers. They need cornerback help and linebacker help pretty desperately, but I feel like cornerback help more than linebacker help. They just signed Vince Williams to a pretty big extension, and I feel like they'll be able to get a linebacker in free agency that can help them out. Maybe they can even trade for one or pick up one later in this draft. But Vince Williams has been holding down the middle of that defense pretty well. They just really need help at the cornerback position. Artie Burns played pretty good last year, but hasn't this year necessarily as much. Joe Hayden's getting older, not getting any better, and I couldn't even name their third. They had Ross Cockrell for a little bit, and he played good, but then he started playing bad, and then they cut him. So they don't really have a very, star corner or anybody that's going to make a lot of plays for them. So I feel like them going out and getting a star corner that's going to help Joe Hayden and Artie Burns, Artie Burns and Joe Hayden can also help Byron Murphy. I feel like that's a very successful, that's something they need for their defense to be successful. And with Rashawn Gary going to the Seahawks at number 24, I feel like he's a guy who had top 10, possibly top 5 potential in this draft class, but he hasn't really, he had an injury earlier in the season, not earlier, but in the middle of the season he had an injury, and he came back from that and he didn't really look the same, but he still has a ton of potential. He's a guy he's about 280 pounds, so he can play a 3-4 defensive tackle. I don't know why I said it like that. He could play a 3-4 defensive tackle. Maybe he could put on some weight depending on what team drafts him, but I feel like he is also a very good 3-4 defensive end, maybe even a not 3-4 D end. He could be a 4-3 defensive end, or maybe even a 3-4 stand-up outside linebacker. He's a guy who's got a lot of talent, a lot of motor. He's really, really good against the run, really good against the pass too. I feel like he's a guy who can do it all, and his ceiling is very, very high. This may be my Michigan bias coming out, but I feel like because of how his season went with injuries and not playing all that, not playing up to the standard that some people held him to, that he's going to drop a little bit, and this is going to be, if he drops this far, this will be the steal of the draft for the Seahawks. Alright, moving on to the last set of picks here. At number 25, I have Paris Campbell from Ohio State, wide receiver obviously, going to the Oakland Raiders. At number 26, I have Taylor Rapp, a safety out of Washington, also going to the Oakland Raiders. At number 27, I have Trayvon Diggs, cornerback out of Alabama, going to the Texans. At number 28, I have the Chargers taking Jerry Tillery, a defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. At 29, I have the Patriots taking the Rob Gronkowski replacement in Noah Fant, a tight end out of Iowa. At number 30, I have Dexter Lawrence, a defensive tackle out of Clemson, going to the Packers. At number 31, I have the Rams taking Mac Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. And rounding out the first round of the draft, I have the Chiefs taking Amani Oruwariye, cornerback out of Penn State, with the last pick. Just going over some of these picks really quick, kind of ending the video, wrapping it all up, bringing it all together and stuff like that. Paris Campbell, 25 to the Raiders. They need weapons. Jordy Nelson hasn't really been all that good this season. Derek Carr hasn't looked good, so maybe he just has a lack of weapons, or maybe it's just him not playing well. Jared Cook has looked pretty good. Amari Cooper got traded, and he's looked amazing with the Cowboys, but obviously he got traded, so he's not on the team anymore. Marcel Aitman has been coming into his own as of late, but he hasn't, looked amazing or anything like that, and he doesn't look like a true number 1 wide receiver. So they really do need a really good wide receiver. Paris Campbell brings speed. He brings speed. He can stretch the field. He can run intermediate routes. He can do it all. He's a very good wide receiver, and it's a great pickup at 26. Taylor Rapp out of Washington at number 26 to the Raiders, back-to-back picks. The time that I'm recording this video, or when I made this mock draft, the draft order is going to be different when I post the video. So I'm recording the video on a Monday, but the draft order, all the games Sunday, all the games Thursday, the draft order is going to get switched around, so it's going to be really different than what I have here. But since I already made the draft order, made the mock draft, all that stuff, I figured might as well just stick with it instead of trying to change everything up again. But back to the players. Taylor Rapp, safety out of Washington. Reggie Nelson is terribly, terribly old, and they need as much help on the defensive side of the ball as they can get. Taylor Rapp's a very good player. He reminds me a little bit of kind of like Carl Joseph in the fact that he's a physical safety, but he's a better free safety than a strong safety, I think, and he's got really good ball skills, so I feel like he'll help out on the back end of that defense. The Texans taking Trayvon Diggs right here at 27. They don't really have a number 1 true lockdown corner. AJ Boye was really good for them a couple years ago, but Jonathan Joseph's pretty old. Kareem Jackson's pretty old. Kevin Johnson hasn't played very well. I feel like, and they've got Aaron Colvin. I feel like getting Trayvon Diggs, he's a good number 1 corner, great size, and he's 6'2", 195. He's got really good size. He's very athletic. He's a converted wide receiver from Alabama, so I feel like he's going to be a very good quarterback. He's a guy that could easily rise up in the draft boards, but right now I have him at number 27. At pick number 28, I have the Los Angeles Chargers taking Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. To me, the interior of their defensive line isn't all that good. Corey Liuget, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's really weird, and I never pronounced it right for the longest time, but I think it's Corey Liuget. They've got Brandon Meebame in there. Their edges are fine. They've got guys like Uchenna Nwosu, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. I don't think Jeremiah Tachi plays for them anymore, but they've got really good edge help. They don't really have anybody on the interior of the defense defensive line. Jerry Tillery is a really good defensive tackle, and I feel like he'll help, you know, bring that whole defense together. They've got good safety play, good corner play, good edge play. The linebackers are they're playing okay, not great or not good or anything like that. They're playing pretty decently, but I feel like Jerry Tillery in the middle of that defense is going to really help them out. At number 29, I have the New England Patriots selecting Noah Fant, a tight end out of Iowa. To me, he's been the best tight end in college football this year. He didn't win the award. There's an award for it, but his teammate TJ Hawkinson won the award for best tight end in the country. That's just kind of based off stats and performance and stuff like that. But when you're talking about the NFL, you look for size, speed, strength, catching ability, all that stuff. Noah Fant possesses all of those. Rob Gronkowski's getting up in years. His contract is up not at the end of this season, but at the end of next season. So this is a guy that they could let Gronk walk for basically free and put this guy in there, and he could be an immediate replacement. And I feel like that's something that the Patriots should heavily consider. At number 30, I have the Green Bay Packers selecting Dexter Lawrence, a defensive tackle out of Clemson. He's a guy that was really high on a lot of people's draft boards to begin like the whole, you know, mock draft season, but I never really was that into him. I feel like there's better defensive tackles in this country, or not in this country, in college football this year. Dexter Lawrence, to me, he could play a 3-4 defensive end for the Packers. He could definitely play a 3-4 defensive end, help ensure the inside of that defense. They've got Kenny Clark, they've got Mike Daniels. Is it Mike? Yeah, they've got Mike Daniels, and earlier in this draft, if you know, based on my mock draft, they've taken Deontay Thompson. So I feel like that's really rounding out their defense. They don't need a ton of help on the offensive side of the ball. It's a pretty good offense. They've got good wide receivers, good young guys over there, but defense is where they are struggling, and I feel like Dexter Lawrence is going to really help out their defensive interior. At pick number 31, I have the Los Angeles Rams taking Mack Wilson, a linebacker out of Alabama. Their inside linebackers right now aren't all that good. They traded Alec Ogletree to the Giants. Corey Littleton has been playing okay, but not great. Mark Barron has started to digress over the years. He isn't playing as good as he was a few years ago or when he used to play safety. So I feel like going out and getting a linebacker, a true linebacker for this defense is going to be something that totally switches it around. They've got a good interior, a good front seven, but I feel like getting a solid inside linebacker in Mack Wilson is going to really help them out. And with the last pick of the draft, the Chiefs, at least, you know, in my mock draft, the Chiefs select Amani Owarie, cornerback out of Penn State. The Chiefs secondary is absolutely awful. I watch pretty much every game. It's awful. It's the worst. It's so bad. I don't even want to speak on it anymore. It is just terrible. I'll leave it at that. Amani Owarie, a very good corner. He's got good ball skills, but I don't think that he's, you know, he may not be worth a first-round pick. To me, this is his range. He probably falls from like 27 to 32 if any of the teams in that range take him. I don't think it's a reach, but if any teams between like, you know, 15 to 20 take him, I feel like that would be a reach. He's a very good corner. He's got good ball skills. He's been a very shutdown corner for Penn State over the last few years, and like I just said, the Chiefs need corner help. They've got good edge players in Justin Houston and Dee Ford. Derek Nottie and Chris Jones have been stepping up very well and been playing very well this entire season. The inside linebacker position isn't necessarily a hole. They've got Reggie Ragland and Anthony Hitchens, but they just haven't been playing up to their full ability. On the back end, you've got Eric Berry, you got Eric Murray, who's not all that good, but Armani Watts is eventually going to be playing that free safety position, so I feel like the safeties are good. You really got to go out and you got to attack the cornerback position because that's your biggest need by far. Alright, that is going to do it for the video, guys. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. More content's going to be coming out like this since I am on Christmas break. I am going to be picking up a job, so it may not be as much as I want it to be or as you may want it to be, but I'm going to have more content out because I don't have any finals or tests or anything like that to worry about anymore. And that's going to do it for me, guys. Leave comments on what you thought about the video down in the comment section below. I'll be reading them, responding to them if they are positive and if they, you know, contain some type of conversational material and stuff like that. And with all that being said, I am TJ, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.